Welcome, welcome. The meeting has been called to order at 5 o'clock. We'll start with a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're now open for public comment. Claire, you want to read the statements?
Public comment periods will be held at the beginning of the scheduled meeting and limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each person desiring to speak shall clearly state their name and will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make his or her remarks. A speaker may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. To avoid repetition, groups of individuals who expect to have the same or similar comments are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. The board should refrain from engaging in dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's position. The board shall not entertain questions from the audience, and discussions between speakers and the members of the audience shall be prohibited. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. Speaker comments should be limited to subjects that are within the board's jurisdiction. Action on items brought up during the public comment period will be at the discretion of the board.
Okay. Any speakers today?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Bridgers, and have some concerns about the issue of videotaping and allowing access over the internet to the absentee ballot meetings. I understand the need for transparency, and I agree that that's a very important issue, but I think that there are some security issues that also need to be taken into account. While the video of these meetings may not be visible to discern the name or voting record of any of the ballots, I think one of the concerns I have is that there are very sophisticated computer programs that can take a blurry image and make it legible. And so while I think maybe that might be a long shot for someone to be concerned about the voters in Harnett County, the fact is that those things can happen, and I think it's something that needs to be considered when you are looking into the issue of having the absentee meetings broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this my phone?
You asking me?
Cause y'all, my head might be a little stopped there, but
I can hear him.
is the
I
mic
can
on?
hear him.
Is this mic on?
Yeah, we
That might have been me, cause I was
so
stranded.
stuffy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check, 1, 2,
Maybe that
test,
on.
test.
Maybe
Does
that
he need to repeat it?
Do I need to repeat it?
No, I could hear it.
I
could
heard
hear
him
it.
fine.
I think I got the gist of it, I just didn't know, but that's fine, I can go off of that.
Rebecca Brock, I concur with Michael Bridgers on the videotaping of absentee ballots, but I also am hoping to hear how the photo ID operation is going and what the staff is doing to get people who need to have photo IDs made, how that outgrowth, that approach is going, because it's an important approach, and we have a couple months left here in 2020, or 3 months left here in 2023 before 2024 primary, and I'm just very concerned about getting people photographed and those IDs who are challenged physically. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, comment session is now closed. Claire will move on to the acceptance of the review and acceptance of the meeting minutes.
Does everybody have before then a copy of the September 26th minutes? If you need a minute to review them, these are the same that were emailed out. And if you are happy with the minutes, a motion to approve would be in order.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Bell, you weren't here, so you can sign it if you want to, but you don't have to, since you were out last week.
Yeah.
It was a nice short meeting, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We haven't had one of those. That was
It
not
was
connected to you,
so
Mr.
short
Bell,
that
it's just
people
a
were hanging
fact.
around like, is it
There was
really
no
over?
connection.
I know, I would have about one or two.
We just had one.
One,
We had 4.
but I was out at the parking lot.
No,
Oh,
we had 1.
Yeah.
The meeting before that, we had 4, and then we had 1 last week.
So the word got out this week.
Well, you know how it is, it's getting closer to shutting down. Okay, Claire?
Alright, so I don't have a lot of election updates. We only have Dunn and Irwin going on right now. Voting has been pretty slow, which is expected for early voting for the municipals. I think we have a total of, this is absentee and early voting, we've had 83 total voters so far. Early voting numbers was at 68 yesterday, so I don't have today's numbers factored into that yet. So that's about what we expected. We still have time to get over 100, but I didn't expect to get over 100 for early voting. Early voting does end Saturday, so at 3 o'clock is when that will end. But on Friday, this coming Friday, absentee by mail will also begin for Andrew, Coates, and Willington. So we do have a little bit of an overlap there. I do want to point out that because of October and November overlapping and the potential for Dunn having a runoff election, we don't have our coding yet for the next election. We still have our ballots, we'll still be able to mail out ballots, but we will not be able to do our logic and accuracy testing or the mock election until we receive that coding. So once the October election's over and we see if there's going to be a runoff, then we'll have our coding usually within a day or two, and we'll be able to do that testing, and I will inform everybody when we do know that date. And that, again, is a public event, so we'll also notify the party chairs and everybody interested to do that. But we will not have that this week because of the October election. I didn't have this to discuss, but I can go ahead and discuss as far as the photo ID. For this election, again, it's a small election, but so far we've not had any issues with photo ID. Nobody has come in to vote or has voted an absentee ballot that has been missing the photo ID. So far, things have been well with that. We had our outreach event here. We will be at the Denim Days this weekend and then the Coates Festival next weekend. So we're trying to build up some of our outreach through this municipal. But once the municipals are over, we're definitely going to do some bigger events prior to the primary. And then again, of course, throughout the summer and prior to the general.
Now, at that outreach, what are you doing? You just have a booth, or you?
We have a booth. So at the booth, we'll have registration forms, absentee ballot request forms, and then we'll have the applications and the camera to do to take photos so that we can issue the photo IDs.
So you'll have that at the event?
Yes.
Will you be able to give it to them right then?
So for the town events that are outdoors, we will not. But when we had our event here, we had the actual machine here. But just because you have to have electricity, and when we did the Andrew one, it downpoured on us, so we don't want the equipment to get rained on. So we have the camera in the application, and then when we come back to our office, we would generate the IDs and then mail it to them. So it's
Claire,
a day turnaround.
I was talking with a businessman in Cameron, and they're hosting a trunk or a treat event where they're gonna have things for the community, food vendors, jump trays, things like that. And it might be something, an opportunity for us to go out and give some information on the photo ID and stuff. The guy's name is on the back here,
Okay. You
and
can
I'll
just
get
give it
that, pass that to you.
Mhm.
You can contact him.
Yeah, I'll look at it and see what we can do. I know if it's during the week, we'll have to do some scheduling with them because we'll have early voting going on that time frame too.
Mhm.
But we'll see what we can work out.
Okay.
Mhm. But as far as election updates, that's all I have right now.
Okay, we can move into the next topic, which is discussing the recording of the absentee meeting.
Yes, so at the couple meetings back during one of our absentee meetings, it was brought up that the board would like to, or members of the board would like to revisit the topic of recording absentee meetings. I did reach out to several other counties to determine how many do that, and there are, did I stick it here? I want to say of the, I think only 20-some counties replied, and I think about half of them recorded and half of them did not record. But we still have to maintain the security if we do record, so we have to be careful with what the video shows, what we say while we're recording as you're reviewing those ballots. But again, it's ultimately a board decision. So I know Mr. Bell wanted us to bring it on the agenda so that we can discuss it.
All right, okay, and I think that's what the gentleman at the mic was referring to.
Mhm.
Okay. He
Yeah, the
said-
security and the fact that with certain softwares you can unblur a blurred image. So even if something was kind of blurry, he said that there's equipment out there that can screenshot it, clarify it, and make it where it's readable.
Anything's possible with modern day technology.
What am I missing? I mean, we were talking about having cameras so that, that folks who could not attend and can see that with transparency, that our system is secure, right? And, I know, please forgive me. So, I don't think we talked about holding things up for the camera to read. Is that what you're saying?
No. What, you guys are reviewing things, so you're holding them up to look at them. You're looking at the envelopes, and even at the last meeting where, I pointed out, with the envelope now, you have their information on one side and you have their ID on the other side. So when you hold it up to look at it, the other side is exposed. So even though you're not doing this, we still have to be careful that we're not exposing confidential information. And that's what I'm saying, we just have to be careful.
And a couple of those ID the pictures were huge.
Yeah.
You covered
Yeah,
that.
we have a couple today that are really big too. So again, like I said, it's a board decision, so you guys can discuss
Discuss.
that.
Well, if we're trying to weigh the transparency to the community versus the possible disclosure, and it's just a matter of technique, I suppose what we could do is just view the document this way, turn it over and view it this way without holding it up. That might eliminate the chances of someone seeing something or going through the machinations of unblurring and seeing something. I think transparency, I'm in favor of transparency rather than shutting down and not showing anything.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. The 20, you said about 10 did the videos and the other half
Yeah.
did not. What was the feedback from the 10 that?
They just said that they were really careful with
Did
where
they?
the camera was pointed. Most of them said that the camera was far away from them, and that the board was, was coached with what not to say, not to comment on ballots or how they're voting or repeating people's names out loud or, so for them, they seemed like it worked fine. But then again, there's some that were adamant about not doing it. So it's about 50-50 in the
50-50.
replies.
I think that's our camera, right?
Yes.
Madam Chair, point of order, should we not have a motion first before we
Oh,
discuss?
sure, yes.
So we discuss, a motion to,
It was yours.
well, okay. The motion will be to what now? To video or to not video?
I
Is that-
guess whatever you want the motion
You
to
make-
be.
You make the motion, if you wanna do it, say, if you want it recorded.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm in favor of recording for transparency, sake, but I don't know anybody that, I didn't.
I mean, so put it in a motion.
Can
so
we have our
discuss it.
technician here? Can he tell us?
Right, he
Don't-
just put it in a motion
well,
so we
I
can
think-
discuss it.
I think what Mr. Kern saying is we need a motion and then a second and then
Discuss it.
discussion.
Okay,
And
well,
then we can have Ben and whoever else and
okay, well, I'll make the motion and, in an effort to be as transparent about our process. I think that cameras would be enhanced that, will assure that, so I'm in favor.
Okay, so what's your motion?
That was the motion.
You're in favor of
You're in favor of,
video.
Oh, yeah, yes, I am,
go ahead. All right.
yes, I'm in favor of, the cameras being utilized, to show the process, absolutely.
So what's your motion?
so you move
Let's have the
to
cameras used,
record absentee meetings.
record absentee meetings in all meetings,
Is this your motion?
I mean, how,
Board members only.
am I, okay, wait a minute, here, hold up. Am I being too specific, or do you want me to say I need
Not
a motion?
specific
No, you're not.
enough.
Not specific enough.
You have to mention
Just say
recorded
what
and
you want.
absentee
Okay.
all in the same.
I made the motion, and in the interest of being
Transparent.
transparent, that we allow the recording, the cameras, to be operational during all meetings when the board is convenient, except for closed session. I'm trying to say, I was thinking about clandestine, but yeah, closed session.
Is that good enough?
Is that good enough?
I second that.
Okay. Now
Okay,
we're open
let's
Now
for
can
discuss.
we discuss
discussion.
it? Okay. As far as the actual opportunity for enlarging and secretly finding out identities and what have you, I would suggest that we have a technician actually attempt to do that with one of our recordings. Whatever type of mechanism he needs or whatever expertise he needs to seek to try and make that happen, because I don't think it's plausible under our circumstances, and that would eliminate any issues of anyone being concerned about surreptitious recording. So that's a comment.
Yeah.
Ben,
And, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just like to ask Ben a quick question. The cameras here, is there any way when we're doing the absentee, you can blur it or something?
I'll have to
Or
wait.
maybe, well, no, cause I'm telling you, I'm one that goes online and sees something and I download it and I get it to where I can see it. So it's possible.
I'm very much in favor of transparency and free, fair, and open elections, but I go back to what originally idea, I don't think we need to tape or videotape absentee meetings because of security reasons. So therefore, I'm not in favor of the motion.
And I've got to say, I'm in favor, I think we're all in favor of transparency. And I do think having, the people in the audience attending. Right now, we've got one person watching online, so I don't know that we're cutting off a whole, group of people that are wanting to watch our meetings that can't make it here. And I think that the people that are actually present can be great judges of what we're doing. And I have to say, I agree with Mr. Bridgers about, we don't know what the, opportunities for malfeasance or whatever. I think the chances of it are probably very low, but why open ourselves up to that if we don't need to? I don't know that we're being tremendously less transparent by not recording it, since we do have audience members and we're open to the public while we're doing it. So that's my 2 cents.
Could we hear from the gentleman, the technician?
Well, it was my question, so I was getting ready to ask
Okay,
you.
go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
I can't tell you that it is possible for me to blur it. I'll have to play with it because I've never done that before with the software I use. So I can't confirm that it is possible to blur the video. I can pull up on the screen and show y'all what it looks like, and it would be highly improbable for someone to be able to, because I can see the papers on the table right there, and you can't even see, it's just a white sheet. You can't even see any letters or anything on it.
I see.
And they don't make technology that lets you enhance something past the aspect ratio of it.
I sure be doing it.
That stuff's in movies. That stuff you can't actually.
That stuff in the movies.
No, I'm telling you what I do.
Yeah,
But it's for nutritional stuff. I Google and download from little videos that I'm able to get the recipes and all of that, so it can be done.
Well, something that's put up for that reason, I think, and I'm no whiz at this stuff. If someone is putting a video regarding recipe cooking and they want it to be seen, I'm sure that if you need to, you can see it. But we're not talking about that here. I think it would take a high level of espionage to see what we have on these papers here, to determine who voted what and who the person was. And my whole intention was to show the public, and even though we may only have one at this election on this day because it's municipal, my mind goes back to what happened in our 2020 election and what some of the things that were discussed at the conference that we attended, about how the general public feels about the elections, where they are fair and where the process, is it possible for someone to, or we can skew the election as board members, but I think if we have what we have, our visual, that we see that's not important. We're just showing you what we do here. It's right above board's policy, and that's it. And if someone's out there, and James Bond 007 is got some spy equipment to see how someone in Harnett County votes, we can't do anything about that, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I really don't.
Well, my opinion is, I know I have integrity. And I do believe that the other 4 have integrity. I know, and in my own little world, and people around me do download and blow up and keep on getting angles until they can see it. I know that.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I'm sorry.
When it comes to the integrity, and we don't even want one attempt of anyone trying to look at anyone's personal information.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
So I think that,
You also have the option to not record video, but just record the audio.
so that was gonna be my next
Yeah,
thing.
we could just blank the video. We're not talking about streaming this to YouTube, are we? Just recording it?
Right,
Yeah, we could definitely, I could put like a blank graphic up and we could just record the audio from the meeting.
okay.
You can do
That,
Well,
that is
there you
possible.
Let me just clarify, because our meetings are recorded, live stream.
Yes, this is being streamed on YouTube, but
Yeah,
for the
because we
absentees.
do our absentees during the regular meetings too, so that would be live stream.
Okay. So, but yeah, I can put a blank graphic up and just record the audio from the absentee portion.
Okay, so that was like when I was asking you what you
Yeah.
could do with that. That was
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
can,
the
I can
next-
turn that, I can
Mhm.
flip it to the ceiling, I can
Right.
just blank it out, all that's possible, with the audio still coming through.
You know, I'm as concerned as anyone with voters' privacy, confidentiality, and that's not the intent to open the voter, expose the voting populace that their ballot may be viewed that way. We're not putting it up on the internet and streaming it to be broadcast to just for purpose of promoting it.
And I understand
And
that.
all we're doing
And
is
so
just
that's
saying.
why we're working for a compromise. That's why I asked him what his abilities were before
I mean, I
we got
see,
interrupted. But I have to agree. Now, I'm willing to compromise if it's verbal, but cameras, and I know a couple of those, and you say you have some now, where the picture ID is during the size of the window of the envelope. And I'm just not willing to jeopardize that,
what are we jeopardizing?
The identity.
the identity
Of
of
what?
that person on that, their photo ID is visible.
On their ballot? I mean,
Not the ballot,
okay, I
but
tell you what, for
the envelope.
simplicity's sake. All right, I think if someone shows up to post to vote with a ballot, we know they're voting. Like I said, I know, if it's gonna, I didn't mean for it to develop into this and turn into this, but I was just thinking how to make our meetings more transparent to.
Our
to the
meetings
public.
are transparent.
And
They're
not-
videotaped, and when it comes down to doing absentee ballots, I think we should put other measures. It was Dana that mentioned it during the last one, that you could see or hear something, right? During the last absentee meeting?
I don't think so. I wasn't here for the last one.
Well, the one before you did. You made a comment when we were had the envelopes up?
Yeah, maybe that
Yeah.
when you held it up.
When you
Right.
hold them up like that to the camera, I mean, who's gonna do that? Who does that?
You
Who's
guys-
gonna hold
Apparently it
them down?
happened that day.
Somebody,
You
who's
know,
gonna do that?
when you're zoned in, and think about this is a small election, when we get a big one, you're zoned in, you forget about the cameras, you're doing your thing. And the envelope may go up again, I don't know. But if we can compromise and have one, or we have none. Because I'm in line with the other two.
The other two what?
Madam Chair, can we call the question?
Yes, let's call it into question then. Go ahead,
No, it's time for a vote, that's what I meant.
well, I'm ready. Start with you.
All those in favor?
All those in favor of,
The motion.
wait, your motion, repeat your motion.
Gosh. We need to start.
Claire, do you
running
wanna
names
read what he
as
said?
we go.
What did you
Will
write
you read
down?
back what I said, Madam Secretary?
So his motion was, and I don't have it word for word because I have noted that I was going to go back to the recording for the word for word, but to record the absentee meeting, to record all meetings where the board is convened with the exception of closed session,
Yeah, basic, it's something basic.
right? Okay.
That was a motion, close enough.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed?
No.
Okay, so that passes 3-2.
Wait a minute, she voted with us.
No,
I
I
said-
didn't.
You said
I
aye.
said all
Yes, you did, she said aye, you did. Yes, you did,
I did not say aye.
yes, you did.
I was
heard
actually looking at you.
No, I heard you say aye.
Well, let's do
And-
it again. Let's do
We
it
need-
again.
Okay, let's read up for clarification.
Jay?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
I mean, no,
no.
you
All
got,
right, I'm done with that, I'm done with that.
do it
No, we're
again.
not doing this anymore, no, that's it,
All
I'm
right,
done.
so
Let's move
it
on.
has failed 3-2.
Yeah, let's move on.
Alrighty. So that is all the business that I had before, our absentee list. So since we are into the absentee portion, what I was gonna have Ben do, unless the vote changed differently, was just to turn off the recording for now, just like we were in closed session.
Yeah.
We good? Alright, so Ben, if you could just stop the recording.
How are we coming with, our search for the assistant director? How are we
We
coming with
can
that?
discuss that in closed session.
Huh?
In closed session. We can discuss that in closed session. Yeah. Are we good? All right. So now we are back, the cameras are back running, and I think we only had one other item. Mr. McNutt,
Yes.
did you want to go into closed session to discuss?
It would probably be better.
Okay, so I just need a motion.
But what's the reason?
Because we're gonna be discussing
Personnel.
personnel matters and
Okay, are
budget.
we talking about a specific personnel person though? Because we can't go into closed session just to discuss personnel policy.
Don't do it.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
I thought
Alrighty.
that was what was
Yes.
necessary.
So, now, my question is, since we're not going in, closed session, how are we coming along with the, search for
I
assistant
still
director?
think that topic needs
That
to be
topic.
in closed
Yeah.
All
session.
right, let's go to
Yes.
closed session then.
Okay. Okay, so if we're talking about personnel policy, we can't go into closed session. Can't go into closed session. If we're talking about specific personnel, person or position, then we can.
Then we need to go into closed session.
So can we do that and then go into closed session and get this part complete?
Sure, why don't we do Mr. McNutt's?
Okay, and then we'll go into closed session. Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Okay. Did everyone receive a copy of the brief outline that I had, that Claire sent out? Yes?
Yeah.
All right, the genesis of this was the conference that we had back in August. And after hearing what was said by Professor Roberts, and looking at his presentation, he did a statewide survey on behalf of the election director, State Board of Elections, Brinson Bell. And as a result of that, we interviewed the 100 different counties and the boards of election throughout the state. And it generated the results was a slide presentation that he put on at the conference that we all attended. And several things were mentioned that gave me concern. One was retention of election officials and staff, as well as recruitment. And some of the other items were things like a percentage increase in harassment of election officials and staff throughout the state, as well as security issues, different things happening to their vehicles in parking lots and things of that nature. So there was a big concern on the part of people who work for the Board of Elections throughout the state. And we're losing people for those reasons. Another item that his survey shown was the fact that we're not able to recruit new people because of the lower wages that are offered as compared to other jobs in that community, not necessarily comparing Harnett to Wake or Mecklenburg, not doing that, but just the fact that is it a living wage that has to be done. And then the increase in stress of the job was a big issue with multiple people, something in the neighborhood of 40 to 45% of the people. So all of those were various concerns. And then additionally, what we're going to discuss in closed session happened. And we also have additional issues, not only in the Board of Elections, but in other county positions where they're not getting the compensation necessary to recruit people and to keep competent people. So that's an issue, it's a concern. And at this point, we should be addressing these issues with the people that have the purse strings, which is the commissioners. And in that regard, I've talked to some of them and got an opportunity to speak with them this coming Tuesday at 9 a.m. And so I prepared several documents in support of that presentation. And this is the time for this board to look at what I've prepared, give me additional comments, and anything that I may have left out, because I'm giving the presentation on behalf of the Board of Elections, not on behalf of myself. And so in order to do that, I need your input. So I've divided into several categories. The professor's CV, the survey itself, election director duties, various slides that I'm going to refer to, plus Senate Bill 749. There was also a previous presentation by our election director to the commissioners. Was it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
2021.
21, okay. And that was pointing out the serious concern that we had not having the facilities necessary to do our business. We didn't have, we had cramped quarters at that time. I wasn't here, but I've seen pictures. And it's like trying to conduct business in a dining room or a kitchen. Very small, very uncomfortable. We have much of our equipment stored in a warehouse, Harnett County warehouse, and it's protected by a cage and locks. We have other equipment that's in the current facility on the other side of the railroad tracks. That facility is not big enough to conduct any election procedures, and these people are falling all over themselves. So that request was made in 21, and that was brushed aside. We haven't gotten anything yet. It hasn't been addressed. So it's still a continuing issue. That also bears upon recruitment and retention. People like to work in a nice environment, and you know, that's not too much to ask for. So those are the issues that I'd like to present to the commissioners for their consideration or reconsideration. And in that regard, I don't know the magic terminology for what it should be done, but are we looking for increased staff in the election facility? I don't know. It may very well be, because we're short 2 right now, aren't we? We're short 1 staff member, and we lost an assistant election director. So we need those positions filled in addition to another one. And so we're really behind the 8 ball. Now this is, the muni elections, we've gotten along fine, but the people are working long hours, and we're stretching it thin. So we need more people. And in addition to the facility, but I would put the people ahead of the facility. As long as we have the people, we can still get the work done. So in that regard, I'm going to pass out various things that I'm going to show them, and I want this board's input on them. The first is the professor's CV, and why don't we start it over there, you can pass it around. And the second is the actual presentation. It was, I believe, 35 or 40 slides. I've got some of them highlighted that I'm going to be referring to, which basically supports some of the stuff that I've said already.
Bill, is that going to be a regular meeting or work session?
It's a work session at 9 a.m. on the 10th.
Okay. Did they give you an amount of time to speak, or?
Nope, not yet.
Does that mean they're not going to give it, or is it unlimited?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I suppose I can fight for it, I don't know. I want to say what I'm going to say.
I will say, I think during the work sessions, they don't necessarily have it timed out, but can't say that 100%. While he's passing that out, I will like to add that I did ask Janice Lane from HR to be here. So if there's any HR-related questions as far as like reclassing or anything of that nature, you can get it direct from her as opposed to me trying to get that information and come back to you. And I do want to add as well, right before this meeting started, Mike Mara, the Assistant County Manager, reached out to me. I think they did an agenda review for the commissioners and did say that if you guys as a board or if you want Bill to do this on your behalf, to meet with Mike and Brent before the commissioner meeting to kind of see their thoughts.
Good idea.
They would be happy to meet with you. I just got to figure out, they're out of town for a conference. I think they'll be back Thursday. So I know that's going to be a really short time frame, but I can see what everybody's schedule is and who's available to do that. Because they may be able to help out with certain aspects prior to the commissioner meeting.
I think that's a good idea, and I appreciate that, but it's got to be a step at a time. First of all, the board has to approve what we're talking
Correct.
about.
Yes.
And I'd be more than happy to meet with the county manager.
Okay.
Would you be opposed, Bill, if some of the members of the board accompanied you with your meeting?
Oh, I would request it. That would be
Okay.
fine.
Just want to, we don't want to say there's no exclusion.
Yeah,
Okay, we're,
yeah, and of course,
I'm about to go with you on that.
we are a nonpartisan,
Right.
so I want to make sure that we have equal representation in whatever meetings we have.
Okay. I'd
And,
definitely like to do that, attend with you.
okay, and since we have someone with the expertise here, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Of course, yes.
All right, well, one of the things that has gone through my mind is what's the best approach to the Board of Commissioners as far as requesting a salary increase for individuals, a reclassification for staff, a percentage increase across the board, or bonuses, bonus structures, or what? What would you think, what are our options and what would you suggest?
Okay. Well, and can you hear me okay?
No, I think you're good.
I'm usually accused of being too loud, so no one's
Yeah.
usually not hearing me. So each of those brings a different set of approvals and instructions under the personnel ordinance. So the first thing I want to address, and you may or may not
Do
be
you want
aware of
Janice to
this.
sit up here? Mr. Bell, so hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you. Do you want Janice to come sit over here?
It might be.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or she can
Or
just
if
use
you use the mic,
Yeah.
it might be because I'm still a little stuffy on the side.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay,
But-
I can't even hear myself. So the one thing, so each of those bring a different approval method and a different process with it. So the first thing that I was saying I want you guys to be aware of, because you may or may not know, back in May, we did get approval for, in that board meeting, for the annual budget plan year. We did an 8% increase across the board for all employees. So that was a huge financial impact on the county because we did a 5% market adjustment and a 3% COLA for a total of 8%. And that market adjustment came from a comp study that we had started the beginning of 2023. So we had an independent consultant come out, and actually we put out an RFP and they all bid on it. And we chose Pontifex Consulting, and they looked at all of our positions for the entire county. And we did compare ourselves to all of our local counties, no matter the size, or the revenue coming in, because we determined if it was local and they could drive to another county and they didn't have to move their house, that was fair game. We're losing our employees to Wake County, right? Not just to Sampson and Lee and Cumberland. And I even went as far as looking at the city of Durham, Durham County, because again, if I could hop in my car and make $20,000 driving an hour, I mean, some of our employees may choose to do that. So we did compare all of ourselves to all the surrounding counties. So
Before you go on,
Yes.
what was the response of the commission to that? Did you get any pushback?
no, absolutely. They knew that we needed to do something for retention and attracting new talent. So absolutely no pushback at all. We had all of our numbers and all of the comparisons. And just remember too that several years in the past, there weren't any COLAs or increases, right? So we knew we were behind. And so they compared all the positions. So the consulting group recommended a 5% across the board market adjustment for all employees. Our public safety got 10% because we were well behind in that area. And then we got a 3% COLA. So that took effect on 7/16 of this year. So we just started feeling the impact of paying that out. And at 8% for all of our employees, I forgot the total, but was it like $4 million? It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We have, was recently lost a valuable member of our staff. And after subsequently meeting with her, sort of an impromptu exit interview, the reason stated had to do with what you're talking about, the lack of income to stay here and perform the duties that she was asked to do, or the individual was asked to do. So the individual wound up taking a position a couple hours away, leaving the area that she wanted to stay in,
Yes.
due specific to income and salary increase. I am looking at, for the same position that was vacated, there seemed to be an extra, a significant amount.
Yes, sir, because she
Yes.
did leave before that COLA and the market adjustment took effect, right? Are we in closed session, so can I talk
No,
specifically?
we're
you
not, we're
No,
not.
it's fine.
We're open.
So I'm
We're
okay
open.
to say what I need
It's
to
okay.
say?
This is
We're
open.
in open session.
So I need
Yes.
to, okay.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have no idea what session we're in. Okay,
Right.
so,
You're good.
yes, so that happened right before our approved increases could take effect. And I did take the opportunity to communicate that that had been approved and was coming. So I think
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
and we
All
do
right.
have other policies in place for retention that the county manager approved, and we discussed that as well.
Okay, all right. So the, well, that's fine. I need to probably ask that in closed session. But I just noted, I want it to be noted that that individual left because of everything you're telling us right now.
Yeah.
And even at the 8% would still been just not quite adequate for her to,
Yeah, that's how I
and
understand.
I think that look like to me, there's been some rectifying of that.
Yes, sir.
And is that what these figures are reflecting?
I don't know what figures you have.
It's from the
7/16.
7/16.
Okay, oh, you're looking at the
salary
salary,
table.
yes, okay,
Yes.
yes, so Claire did give you guys that, that's right,
Yes.
yes, so those are the correct dollar amounts right now. So that was the first part of your question, Mr. McNutt,
Yeah.
so yes, I feel the Board of Commissioners were very supportive in approving that. And again, we had all of our data, right, we're very data-driven and looking at what other counties were paying for those positions, and we knew we were behind. So absolutely no issues on that. And I think most employees were very excited to get an 8% increase, right? Because that's a huge increase. So, so the second part of your question, so a reclassification.
Right.
So that has a different, so that's going to be a separate item. And so when we do look at reclassifications, we do look at the position. And I always preach to look at the position, not the person, because it's so hard not to look at the person, especially if the person's a hard worker and they're there early every day and they've been here forever and they stay late. But we have to look at the duties and responsibilities. And I came up with a little cheat sheet because, you know, from time to time, we do have departments that say, oh, I need to do a reclass. So I'm very cautious in educating them on, we can't reclass because of longevity. They've been here for a long time. And we can't reclass because someone's busy, or we're not able to reclass because someone's bogged down with extra duties. But what we do look at is, if any of the two of these 5 categories change significantly in their job descriptions, and that is leadership, working conditions, complexity, decision-making, and relationships. And I can share this with you.
Okay.
It's small print, I apologize. I like one-pagers. You
Okay,
may have
did you
to.
give me a magnifying glass?
I mean, really?
Give it to Allison, she'll zoom in on
I'm
it
so
for you.
And Allison can probably see that
This is
across the
something
floor
you
with
can,
that.
Yes, and I can email that
Yeah,
to
that
Claire,
would be
but as you can see, as you go from 1 to 6, right? Like, as the job becomes more complex, or there's more leadership, or there's more decision-making, or more relationships, then I say if 2 out of these 5 increase, then that would be a reason for justification. I'm like stepping all over
Yeah.
top of y'all. I'll get back in my lane back here. So if 2 of the 5 of those change, then that would equate to 1 pay grade reclassification, right? So if 2 or more, and then if you're looking at if 4 of those, then that might be a 2 pay grade reclassification. And the thing with our salary pay grade table is it's essentially, and it could be a little off, like 5.04. Essentially, between each pay grade number is a 5% difference. So you have to think if, let's take me for an example, I'm just gonna pretend I'm at a pay grade 20. If you deem that 2 of those have increased in my responsibilities, you revamp my job description to reflect that. If 2 of those things change, then I would move from a 20 to a 21, and that's essentially a 5% increase. So, and for reclassifications, we have to write up a justification and send that to our county manager for approval. And when we do that, we need to use the language of what is increased, what is different, have the new job description that reflects these more complex duties or additional leadership or greater decision-making. So you would write that up and we would send to the county manager for approval.
And logistically, would that be something you could work with us on?
Absolutely.
Because I believe from your categories there and the information from the survey, when you make those comparisons, I see at least 2 of them apply, especially in the working conditions area. You've got 8 categories here.
Yes, sir.
And I think we covered half of them in issues that are raised from the survey that were conducted. So that's one approach, which would be reclassification. How about any of the other areas that I have to mention? Is there a possibility of, for example, bonuses or
Unfortunately, and I was like, I'm all in favor of bonuses, really, but in the county, no. You know, we've never given even, I would love to do hiring bonuses. It's hard when you go to some of these career fairs and other counties are offering a $10,000 sign-on bonus for the sheriff's office, and I'm sitting there going, I absolutely cannot compete with that. So yeah, in the past, the county has not given out any kind of hiring bonuses or bonuses throughout the year. So that I've never seen happen, but I'm not saying that it can't happen. But I would say if we would not be able to do it for one department, I think that would have to be across the board. So kind of what our employees look at as their bonus is their longevity, which we've cut that out years ago. So only our long-term employees that have been here for a longer period of time get the longevity. So bonuses, I'm not familiar with getting.
How would we address the circumstance that we have where when we get into the election cycle, it's like we're working 24/7 here
Yes, sir.
to accomplish everything? And so it's way beyond 8-hour work day.
Yes, sir.
But yet we work the 8 hours throughout the year, but then we get this big rush that we have to meet.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge, and yes, we have temporary workers sometimes we don't. Sometimes we work round the clock.
Plus, we're looking into implementing more outreach.
Yeah. Well, so what we do for that is that depending on the employee, if it's the person's non-exempt or exempt, they are paid overtime, right? So, and then it dumps into comp time, right? So they can be, they can work up to 80 hours. And it's dumped into their comp time, and they're able to take that at a later date for time off, for vacation, so they're not touching their vacation or sick. And it's 1 to 1.5 like being paid out overtime. So once they reach 80 hours, which I'm assuming Claire probably does have that scenario happen during election season, anything over 80 hours of comp time is paid out. So once they reach to 85, those 5 hours are paid out, but 80 hours always, so we kind of pay them in comp time, if that makes sense. It's essentially time off. So they are able to take a 2-week sabbatical if they need it after. They probably need it after election season, to be quite honest. They need to take a sabbatical. But for that reason, they are compensated in that way in compensation, in comp time. And the caveat of that is they don't have to touch their vacation, and they actually protect their sick, because the sick leave can transfer over one time, in the end for retirement purposes. So they could retire a little bit earlier if they can conserve their sick time and never touch that and kind of leave their vacation to build up. So they can just use their comp time when they take vacation throughout the year.
Okay, now, we're faced with our circumstance here, and the possible presentation that we're gonna make to the Board of Commissioners. The response that I imagine I'll get a big fat, we already did that. We did that just in July. What are you asking for now? What type of response would you give to that?
Yeah, and I'm afraid, that, I was like, I could see that scenario playing out. Yes, because it was such a huge hit to our budget, right, to do that. And when we started our budget season, I know our county manager told us that, he would be hard pressed to approve anything new, because he really wanted to take care of the employees, and he wanted to the best of his ability to do whatever we needed to do for this compensation study. And at that time, we didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know if it was going to be 3% or 8% or 10%, but he wanted to conserve all of our resources to be able to take care of the employees. I feel, and I probably would be putting words in someone's mouth, that yes, they just approved at 8%. They're probably going to think, oh gosh, yeah, we just did that. However, this is just my opinion. My opinion would be that I would go the route of asking for reclassifications for each of those positions, because you have one at a pay grade 16, one at a 17, one at a 20, and then I think Claire's a 28. So I would recommend looking at that and asking for reclassifications versus across the board. That would be my thought.
Well, maybe we can get it through reclassification and
Yes, sir.
the comp time and overtime.
Yeah.
For the busy season, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it's busy in the extent that it's double hours. Well, okay, and I appreciate your comment. Anybody else have any questions?
Just one quick,
Let's
Mr.
that one.
What do we do? I'm sure Harnett County is an equal opportunity employer.
Yes, sir.
What do we do to promote diversity in our departments, in the workplace, and as far as our recruiting practices? Can you tell us anything on how we try to achieve as much diversity as possible?
Yes, and that's important. I mean, and we do work on that. All of our jobs are posted on governmentjobs.com. However, some of our jobs, like this elections position, we're having Desiree Patrick push that out on social media. She's put it out on Facebook and LinkedIn, and some of the stuff I don't even know that we have. I don't even know Twitter. Do we have Twitter and Instagram? So I think she's putting it out on all of the social media, and we do know that different demographics look at different social media, right? So, and Desiree's really good about getting the word out and posting that publicly, so they'll know that these positions are open. And then we do recruit, we go to job fairs. Next week we'll be here with Ms. Charlotte Leach over at Workforce Development. She has a job fair in Harnett County. We always have a table set up in here, and we have citizens coming through, and we have a QR code that they're able to come and scan and apply online. So we're doing those things. And of course, HR, we have a limited staff. Me and Claire in the same pod. We have like 5 people, including ourselves. So, and we are recruiting at the school. So I work with the CTE teachers to get these children when they're young. So we are, I think, as she said, outreach, right? It's all about outreach and getting out there. So we are doing that to the best of our ability. But definitely the high schools getting here at career fairs. And it's not our career fair, it's Miss Charlotte Leach's. And she advertises all over the county through Workforce Development. So we're trying to hit all of the different demographics. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question, so, sorry, I'm just getting this.
You're fine.
We'll work around to get it, but I got it. For instance, you have the minimum pay grade.
Yes,
I'm not
ma'am.
calling any numbers, just,
Yeah.
then you have, I guess, the job rate,
Mm-hmm.
the midpoint, and the maximum. So how do people flow say if you got someone from one of the high schools to come in, it's understandable that they would come in at the minimum.
Yes, ma'am.
But if a person has been here 14 years, how do they move from, because
Oh, how do they move through, like, to
Yeah,
midpoint?
from-
Okay. So the way they move through is each year they get evaluated.
Mhm.
And right now, for this year, the Board of Commissioners have approved a 1.5 PPP. So if they score a certain score or higher on their performance evaluation, they'll get a 1.5% increase, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but every little bit helps, right? So, and necessarily, we don't always start at the minimum, and that's what we educate directors on. So yes, so someone coming in from high school wants to be an election specialist and they're 18 or 19 years old, they are gonna start at the minimum. They have no experience, right? But if we get someone that has a 2-year degree and they have some experience, then we're gonna look at that and say, well, maybe we start them somewhere between minimum and job rate. And we look at maybe like 2% or 3%. However, if we were to find our shining star that has 10 years of experience in another county and they're an election specialist, and we could get them to come here to Harnett County, we would probably start them closer to job rate, and that gives them a jump. But they have to have the experience, right? And the degree, and all the things that are in the job description. So they would have to have all of that to start above the minimum. But the way they're moving through that job scale is through their 1.5 PPPs. But keep in mind, it's really hard for an employee to ever reach the midpoint or the max, because as we're giving those COLAs, everything's shifting up. So when we give a 3%, everything you see here on the pay grade table, everything shifts up 3%. And the reason why we have to do that is because your 25-year veteran employee, they're going to reach the max, right? And they're going to say, well, I've been here 25 years and now I've hit max and now I'm not going to get anything. So we're having to shift everything up as we do COLAs to make it fair for the ones coming in. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's.
So it's really hard for someone, and sometimes it's hard to explain that to an employee that, yes, I know you've been here 30 years and I know you haven't hit your midpoint, but then I say, we've had this many COLAs, and each time we've had a COLA, everything has shifted up.
Well, that explains a lot to me. I mean, 30 years and haven't met midpoint.
Yeah. But you're getting raises all along. Now, if you look at your pay, but if you look at your pay scale when you started 30 years ago, you're off the end of it. You're beyond the max. So if we don't,
I better be.
because let me tell you what happened in City
That's
of
sad.
Okay, so City of Raleigh, take example. My husband was City of Raleigh Fire Department. He maxed out as the captain. Maxed out. He hit the end range because they didn't shift theirs up. So guess what happened when they had a COLA? They were like, oh, you don't get the COLA because you've hit the max. And he's like, what do you mean? So they were having to cut checks for 2% of their annual salary as a one-time payout because certain captains and battalion chiefs hit the max. And that hit the 6 o'clock news, by the way. So I'm just saying, some of these decisions, sometimes they don't end well for us.
So what if an individual comes that has, let's say, 15, 16 years experience? If I'm looking at the job rate,
Someone with that much experience, we
Yeah.
probably would look to start them between job rate and midpoint. I mean, we will reward when we find those individuals with that kind of experience. But again, that would take me sitting down with Claire, looking at their application, verifying, because sometimes what people put on their application could be bended a little bit, and so we have to trust and
Right,
verify.
right.
So we would do that, and then based on Claire's recommendation and her thoughts or the board's thoughts, we would go to the county manager, because anything above the minimum, I probably forgot to say this, anything above the minimum, we always have to get the county manager's approval, but we do that via an email with justification. So we have to tell our county manager that this person's coming from, let's just say, Lee County, and they're coming in with 15 years of election experience, and we really, want this person here at our Board of Elections, and we ask for that. So we do fight to get rewarded, and not sort everyone. But again, if someone's coming in with no experience, it's really hard to justify.
I definitely get that.
Yeah, and we also want to take a look at our current employees in Board of Election, right? We don't want to bring someone in higher than someone who's been here for 3 years at Board of Election. So we're always trying to navigate, and it's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and then it also depends on what they are applying for too. If you're
Mhm.
applying for entry level, that's one thing. If you're applying for,
Yes,
then
ma'am.
that's taken into account.
Yep. Any other questions?
Is this something you can send to Claire for
I
us?
will. I will email that to Claire because I promise you can see it on the computer a lot better.
Okay, and if need be, we can pick your brain a little bit if we're going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Claire, did you also need me to stay for closed session for anything, or are we good?
Do you need her,
You want
closed
one?
session?
Okay.
Yeah.
Lewis?
Okay.
No,
I was
She's
asking,
gonna hang.
never mind, she's gonna stay. I was asking you, did you wanna ask her something in closed session? But never mind, she's gonna stay.
yeah,
We're good.
Okay,
you're okay.
You're good.
yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
If Bill is going to appear on behalf of the Board of Elections, I think we need to put that in some form of motion of support, if that's what he's going to do.
But before we get there, so I wanna know the process. I did speak to Bill a little bit earlier, and so I see these, but is there a written, whatever, like what you presented before, outline, not outline, but didn't you have a PowerPoint? Are we gonna have that? Are you gonna have that, a PowerPoint?
If someone wants to make a PowerPoint, fine. I've put everything together and I can do it off the cuff, so to speak, with an outline. Putting a PowerPoint together for me would probably take about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Could
Going
you give
too
us,
early.
Yeah.
We're going too early for that.
could you just give us a rough outline of this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not 2 weeks worth, but
No,
just
oh,
something.
yeah, I
Hey,
can- I
these are the points, bullet points that you,
I certainly can do that, and I can probably have that emailed to you guys tomorrow or the day after, depending. And I'll do it just in a brief paragraph form. I have actually.
you don't have to pair, just 1, 2, 3, 4, these are things I'm going to mention, and and then we kind of see what response.
Is that meeting on the 10th, right, at 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
My
Let me-
mom has an appointment that day, so I will not even be in Fuquay, which is where I live,
Okay,
and so I won't be able to make it.
okay, let me just, I can tell you this, I've got this condensed right now. One of the things that I would do initially is point out that Director Bell commissioned Professor Roberts to do this study. I have his CV, which I passed around, and from that slide presentation that he made, I have highlighted various slides that point out the threats, the harassment, the pay scale, why are they leaving? One slide shows that 45% of the election directors throughout the state have been employed for 5 years or less. That means that we have a lot of turnovers. Why?
Yep.
Why is that happening? And he does answer those questions because he talks in terms of workload and stress that have increased for staff and election directors. The threat environment has changed dramatically, especially for election directors. Changing political environment has fundamentally altered the job, resources, and compensation have not kept up. Election staffers are underpaid relative to the private sector. Recent inflation and competitive job market have only made it worse, sure have. And limited sample, those are the things that I would
Just,
touch on.
if you can just put those and send
Sure.
them to us.
Yeah.
Well, and I think my question also would be is what are you asking of the commissioner?
Well, that's
Like,
another section here.
Like that's before it like became a board thing, I wanna know what you're asking.
Well, since this presentation is on behalf of the board must review the presentation and comment, add additional thoughts, issue staff reclassification, and develop our specific requests, which are what? Question mark. Is it a salary increase, a percentage increase, a bonus structure, position reclassification, larger staff, security issues, relocation to an adequate facility? What do we want to ask for? It's on the table now for the board to answer. I'm not going to answer that. I mean, I know what I would say.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're the one that's
I
doing
know, but
this,
I
so-
need you guys, either you're
Well,
concurrent.
what would you say? That's,
well, the things that I would talk about would be using the survey and the information that I've shown you to justify the salary increase, even though we've just had one in July of this year, to justify, since we don't have bonus structures, I would justify reclassification and work to develop 2 or more upgrades or 4 or more upgrades, depending upon the classification. And I've just found that out tonight. And we still need a larger staff. And what are we doing to address security issues? You know, that's a real threat throughout the state. Maybe it isn't here right now, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be tomorrow or next week. It's a very contentious atmosphere that we live in. And so I would like to see the staff and the facility a little more protected. Maybe we can put a sheriff's car in the parking lot. Maybe we can put up fake cameras on the walls so people think it's being done. Those aren't big expensive things, but it gives the idea of security.
Yeah. You know, we had a couple instances, excuse me, we had a couple instances in the last couple of years where the sheriff or the police had to be called on election day and some prior to election day, just with a candidate filing, and I think there was some feelings of threat. I don't know if it was imagined or what actually happened, where the law enforcement had to come to make sure that everything was peaceful, and that there wouldn't be any altercation that would be harmful.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a big need of that.
Well, my thing is, I think the first thing is, like she said, to identify, so we'll brainstorm there. Sounds like you have a good segue. But to have it all in a written format so that when you, because I've been to a couple, but I went to one for you, to support you, that you presented about, was it the building or, it was the building?
I think it was the building.
And you got a certain amount of time, so it helps to have it written, and then they'll ask you questions from that presentation. And it helps, since you're speaking from the board, for the board, not to stray away from what's written, to make it safe for all of us. That's number one, but just to, so that they have a clear concept, because what will happen is you'll be hammered by Barbara, or I don't know all the other commissioners, but, and you can always refer them back to page so-and-so and so in your presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and address it that way.
It sounds like Tuesday's going to be, here's where we are. I don't think they're gonna answer us and say, I think it's more for, here are the problems.
Right.
Now, I don't think today we can address, we need some time to take a look at that and say, hey, these is 1 through whatever, this is what we'd like to address. Want to tell you that when Claire and Tony made their presentations, and I watched them on Zoom, there was not a single response from anyone, and that threw me, which I'm pretty astute at politics, but I figured it wasn't going to happen because there were no questions whatsoever. Is that accurate?
About the building.
About the building, yes.
Yeah, that's a good assessment.
So
That's a mind made up pretty
Yeah.
much about that.
that's not criticism, it just kind of threw me for a loop that
Right.
there was no response. So,
Well, he'll probably get one, because they're gonna say, we just did this, but he can counter. But at any rate, I still think an outline is good, but just, you know, you go through the presentation, they're reading along. I think they had a copy, did they not?
Of the PowerPoint? Yeah.
And then it gives segue to a bigger or broader dialogue.
I think we'd have to have a follow-up. You'd have to,
Yeah.
I think at some point between now and the primary, you would need to follow up to the commissioners and let us just, these are points we want to make. But I don't think we can do that here today without, I need some time to think.
Of course.
Right.
I need some time out on the tractor where I can think about these
Yeah.
things.
Well, yeah, I think that we have, because today's Tuesday and it's not until next Tuesday. You're gonna start with an outline, but to, calling you Rebecca, she's out there. To Betsy's point, to have your outline and then some points, and then I guess we can add, but we have to do it through Claire because we can't communicate.
Otherwise, we'll be in meetings.
Yeah, it'll be a meeting.
Well, just to give you.
Well, no, we cannot communicate in an email to everyone, that's why she blind copies, cause I used to ask her, why are you blind copying? And she's like, I can't, that keeps you guys from having conversation through email.
When there were three, we couldn't even talk on the phone
Yeah.
to each other. We could not.
Yeah. So,
Allison, let me just clarify a couple things. I don't read text in the presentation very well. I'm extemporaneous. I
Right.
just speak to the people. I find it's
but
much
you
easier.
speak to what's on the paper.
Oh, of course,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
but I may use it as a guide, but it filters through my head and comes out my mouth talking to someone. All right, and I've done it a lot through my career, so that's a more natural presentation for me. Just to read my notes, someone else can do that. And as far as response goes, it depends upon how well the speaker knows the subject matter. At this point, I can respond to anything they say.
Okay.
I'm not concerned about it. Will it fall in line with what she would say or what you would say? Generally speaking, categorically, yes. Word for word, no. Because I have
Well,
my
yeah,
way,
I'm-
you have your way.
Right, I'm just saying when there are several speakers and they have a process, but.
Yeah, and I understand that, yeah.
Bill, if you'd address it, items of concern to the Board of Elections, I think you could just kind of throw that out there and then, as I said, maybe follow up later and say, here are the 10 things that we're most concerned and this is in order.
Mhm.
And a building is not number 1, as you said.
Right.
It's not number 10 either.
Exactly. Well, I guess, do you think, is it the consensus that is too rushed? That we should put off the meeting next Tuesday and give us an opportunity
That's my thought,
to review and discuss and then come up with a consensus and then schedule the meeting? I don't think we're gonna get it, so time is not of import to me. It's the message that I'm concerned with.
right.
Or would you be okay with that? I mean, you've
Oh, I
gone
don't have any
to,
problem with that. Yeah.
And then the reclassification, we can work with HR.
Oh, you
or
bet, because I'd
correct.
like to present it to them where they'll
Yeah.
actually do something.
And I was even thinking too, if you could get that information together and meet with the county manager, and the assistant county manager, Mike Morrow, that might be even helpful to you all to have a game plan in mind that, okay, we know we're not gonna ask for across the board raises, we know we can't ask for, bonuses, but this is what we can ask for, we can ask for reclassification for all of our positions, and maybe if you can, and the Board of Commissioners do not have to approve that, the county manager can.
Right. Well, that's
Right,
excellent.
but
That's
first we
excellent
have to
information.
be of consensus and equal mind on our own, and then we could take it.
Yes.
The next step.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess my question is, what is the purpose of this meeting? Is the purpose of this to express to them the headwinds that we're facing, or is the purpose of this meeting to ask them for
Relief.
X, Y, and Z, or both?
Well, that's what I'd like us all to determine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not determining that. It's
Well, but
something,
you set up the meetings, and
Yeah.
I was wondering what did you have in your mind that was the
to
purpose?
let them know our circumstances, short staff, not enough money for the people, the facilities that we have are inadequate, and we've been sort of an orphan child here for the last several years.
And
Things that we-
turnaround.
Things that we've
You know,
requested,
what do
and
you call it?
we've been promised, and it hasn't been
Money.
done. So we wanna bring that stuff to their attention and say, hey, we're here, you know, we're doing a lot of stuff. We have some positive things that we're going to put forth outreach into the community. And in order to do that, we have to be energized and we have to feel happy in what we're doing. And so that's my thought on it.
We're gonna need a
But we're
larger
need- we're-
budget.
excuse me. Sorry.
What's that? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna need a larger budget moving forward, and that's coming up, right, for outreach, we're gonna have to. Bottom line, I mean, we need to stop thinking small, this county makes money.
But if we're
My
not
water bill keeps going up.
if we're not specific, we're gonna just,
But that's what we're talking
Get
about, we gotta
shuffled.
be specific.
well,
and
we
that's
did
what-
all of this, and that might be the
He's
answer.
got a lot in there.
Yeah, he
There's some
does,
stuff
we
to
just
be
have to,
specific with.
all of us be on the same page. And so I think it is,
And I do think we need to ask her, like what Mr. Kern said, like, these are our, like, priorities, and this is kind of what, you know.
yeah.
So are you okay with us waiting until,
Oh, yeah.
All of
I mean, I think this
Okay.
has been a good discussion.
Yeah.
I have 5 specific points that I think this board should be doing outreach into the community. I have that right here to tell us guys, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
But Ms. Brock, did you have something you wanted to say that time?
Comment session is over. I already
I thought she
mentioned
had
that
something to
you.
say in regards to,
Comment
um,
session was at the beginning,
The chair has ruled.
it's over.
well, yeah. Personally, I think there's a lot in there that we can get, even if we don't present everything at one time and outline, we just get the main topics, the main things like, the big one for me, and I see is employees, employee retention,
Outreach,
definitely outreach,
yeah,
so,
On the outreach, do you guys want to hear what I have written so far?
sure.
sure.
Okay. Our goal should be reaching out to the Harnett County community to establish public awareness of their Board of Elections, their professionalism, their interaction with the community, creating transparency by informing the community of the multitude of activities that the Board of Election continues to be involved in, such as National Voter Registration Day, the recent Lillington Community Day, the HCBOE participation in the various festivals held in the county communities throughout the year. BOE announcing these activities as they occur throughout the year will necessarily elevate the public's perception of the board's professionalism, develop community confidence, trust, transparency, and so forth. So how can we accomplish this? One, we should develop a robust, quote, advertising campaign, which could highlight upcoming events as well as follow-up announcements of each activity. We currently have the benefit of video streaming of our meetings. We could supplement those events with timely videos as well as summarizing the BOE meeting reports. We could also incorporate continuous announcements on the Harnett County website and or social media information. We currently have such ability, but short staff makes it impractical to keep it up to date. The last entry, I believe, was sometime last year. We should have board members discuss and or at least announce the State Board of Elections numbered memos that we are given, with an effort to keep the community apprised of various directives as they happen, including a condensed summarization of the directives, along with at least identifying the referenced statutes, as well as the previous numbered memos referred to. This could be posted on our website and or a video presentation, and also have an email address for comments from the public. And yes, I would volunteer to kick it off. We may be able to get State Board of Election funding for such a program. 5, we should initiate a community outreach program to have board members attend, upon invitation, various community groups such as the Lions Club, the Rotary, churches, to give a brief overview of the Board of Elections operations and interaction with the community. Once again, to establish credibility, respect, and most importantly, the obligation of the community to vote. This can be done in schools. We have so many opportunities to do that. All we have to do is reach out to the community. So those are some random thoughts on what we can be doing.
Yeah, when you talk about promoting, one thing they did emphasize at the state level conference that the state board does not offer any funding at all for us to promote. It has to be, it's been incumbent on us to go out as board members and talk to civic organizations, churches, and because they will not give you any money for advertising, as you know. And so all those things are good.
Yeah.
They're good,
And, you know, a lot of times people want to start at high school, but I think, as Bill and I discussed, why not start elementary, middle school? Why not? That's how I became engaged. And they grow up to, but if you wait to high school, it's just, you grab up some.
Might be
but
too
you
late,
don't-
yeah.
Yeah, let's start earlier.
Plant the seed.
Yeah.
Okay, so, in answer to Jim's inquiry, yeah, I'm more than happy to tell them we're gonna postpone the presentation because we're still developing more issues as a board. And then I'd like,
Well, we'll fine tune it.
yeah, we'll fine tune it. We can say whatever, fine tuning it, but I'd like to see, you know, I'd like to see your independent thoughts on things and what we're gonna be asking for. And then we'll worry about how to present it and how to convince them.
Right.
that's good.
So I'll get that outline to Claire,
And Claire, you
no
want-
later than Friday.
And I'd also like Claire's input too, about what she sees as what we need.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I could do that after I view all the documents and stuff as well. So just to summarize, for my notes, so we're gonna postpone the commissioner meeting on the 10th,
Mhm.
okay? And so the board will work through me to kind of get their information added to this. We'll meet again our next regular meeting in November to discuss it again.
Mhm.
And then prior to any commissioner meetings, we'll set up a meeting with Mike and Brett.
The
And
county
then possibly
manager, yeah,
Janice
oh,
too.
definitely.
Mhm.
And this lady too.
Yes,
I'll be happy to.
so, we're gonna fine tune this.
Can she have these to scan to us?
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
Pardon?
ask to get those.
Yeah, I can give her the book.
So we're gonna meet in November, we're gonna fine tune everything, and then we're gonna schedule a meeting with Brett, Mike, and Janice, and then schedule any commission meetings if needed after that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Actually, if you can make us copies of this.
Well, I'll scan it and then I can send it out.
We have a standing quarterly meeting with
Because I like to,
You know,
county
later.
manager, sometimes Allison can't go, you may want to consider doing it.
I mean,
Oh, sure.
can you bring that up
Oh,
first?
yeah.
Have you met Brett Trapp?
I got so
No.
much paper in my office.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all right.
And Shannon in his office, she put you on.
Okay.
I moved the adjourn.
Well,
Well, I think
oh,
we
we're gonna go
had one
and
other-
close.
You got
I'm
a
sorry.
closed session?
One more,
One more close second.
Yeah,
let me go back, all right.
one more closed session.
Okay. All right, so you can make a
I
motion.
make a motion, Madam Chair, that we go in. I make a motion that we go in
Take a
closed
Yeah,
session
I'm second
Let's
it.
let it
for a bathroom break.
All right.
All in favor?
I can't hold them
All
back.
right, okay. It's 6:40, we're in closed session.
Yeah.